organization is better than ISIS.
Outrage tonight over that parody by comedian Michelle Wolf comparing ICE to ISIS terrorists. My panel is fired up, ready to battle, so let's get to it and see what they think. NRA TV contributor and former aide to Chuck Schumer, radio show host Chris Hahn joins me now. And Chris and Dan. Dan, I'll start with you. No, actually, no. Chris, I want to start with you. Was that too far?
You know, look, it's comedy, and you've got to give a wide berth to comedy. And, you know, as for, you know, the ICE agents, I don't know what they should be more upset about, this comedy skit or being ordered to take kids from their parents. They're probably more upset about the orders to take kids from their parents.
Dan?
You know, here we go, Judge. Every time Chris comes on every time and says things that are just factually incorrect, and he expects the whole audience to believe them because he worked for Senator Schumer. Nobody was ordered to take kids from their parents. This is fact time, folks, so we can put Chris aside and deal with reality now. There was a court decree called the Flores Consent Decree that determined, by the way, this has been in existence way before Donald Trump.
Chris, let him finish.
That we cannot hold kids for more than 10 days. Therefore, those kids, unless we want to keep them in custody, Judge, they can't be kept with their parents. Chris either doesn't know that or he's on the air lying to the audience again.
You know about the Flores decision, Chris. Yes or no?
I of course know about the Flores decision.
Yeah.
What's being done here right now is that the president has ordered all asylum seekers to be treated like criminals, and ICE agents are being forced to take children from their families. And one other thing, they don't even know where they put them because the Department of HHS had no system to track them. That's a problem in this country, and they've already failed to meet the court expectations to get them back together.
No, the court was very complimentary.
That's where the outrage needs to be.
You're wrong, Chris, but Dan, go right ahead.
Judge, it's exhausting having to come on your show every Saturday and debunk Chris. I'm glad you have him. I actually like Chris off the air, but on the air, he constantly says things that I do. No, seriously, you are a great guy off the air. But on the air, he makes stuff up all the time, and he expects you to believe him. Judge, let's be crystal clear on this. These are not asylum seekers. The process for seeking asylum is to go to a port of entry. You will not be arrested if you do that. When you enter the country, this is fact time, between ports of entry, you have committed a crime. Therefore, you will be arrested and likely separated from your kids like any other criminal. See, Chris doesn't know that, or he does and he's lying again.
I do know that, and I also know that the president got rid of an Obama policy that would have allowed these people to seek asylum in their home country. He's also shortened the amount of people who are working at the border crossing, forcing these people into the desert.
All right, Chris, listen to me. Now you're saying the president, and they can go to any port of entry and seek asylum, all right? Now, the ACLU, representing a whole bunch of them, said they weren't sure whether they wanted to seek asylum. They wanted a week to think about it after the parents and the kids were reunited. So if they all want to seek asylum, some of them reunited don't even want asylum. They said, oh, I'm not sure. I didn't come here looking for that. Go ahead.
They're being pressured in these court cases. They're being pressured when their kids are taken away from them. And of course, they should have time to think about their legal options.
No, their kids are back. If they came Chris, you said they came seeking asylum. If they came seeking asylum, when we reunite them, why do they have to think about whether they want asylum? Dan, hit it.
I think that
Judge, one thing Chris is leaving out of this as well, because it's always convenient to leave out the facts, which he has a really hard time with. Donald Trump signed an executive order asking his own DOJ to challenge the Flores consent decree, which happened before Donald Trump even took office. And the court said, no, Dice, it doesn't work that way. Meaning Donald Trump is actually trying to do something about this situation, whereas Chris comes on the channel every Saturday and just makes stuff up for propaganda purposes.
What he's trying to do, Dan, is hold children indefinitely in detention if they come here.
You know what, Chris, I'm not going to let you say that.
Let's be clear what's going on here.
All right, let's talk about
here.
Now we're totally off the facts,
By the way, But
ahead,
back
Chris.
to Michelle Wolf, clearly the outrage.
Perfect.
Back to Michelle Wolf, clearly the outrage is more about the policy than the comedy.
Really? You like ICE agents being dressed up, looking like they're about to chop your head off?
Chris is so insane right now. The camera guy's laughing in the room with me. That's how he's actually laughing behind me.
All right. At least we're all laughing. That's a good thing. No, I want to talk about the president. A lot of backlash from his meeting with Putin. What's your reaction, Dan, the meeting with Putin? I'll start with you this time.
Well, listen, Donald Trump, he made a verbal misstep. He acknowledged it the next day. He corrected it. But what Donald Trump, the way he always dunks on the liberals and the media, is Donald Trump makes a misstep. Let's say it's a 5 out of 10. So what does the media do? They react like it's a 9 out of 10. Nazi comparisons, Pearl Harbor comparisons. By the way, Judge, this really happened. This treasonous, kooky John Brennan who's lost his mind. So what happens? The next day, the argument becomes about the kooky media response and not a misstep by Trump that he corrected.
Okay,
and that's how he dunks on him every single time.
Seconds. Chris, hit it.
The best thing you could say about Trump and Putin this week was that the president looked weak before Putin. That's the best thing you could say. As for the verbal misstep, nobody in America buys the Wood versus Wooden thing, and that was just part of the problem with that press conference. There was all sorts of problems there, plus the president sitting in a room alone with that dictator. Ooh. What did he say? America has a right to know.
All right. Chris Hahn, Dan Bongino, thanks so much. I just want to say one thing. The president had 8 great days. One word was off. That's all the press talked about. Anyway, my closing statement, a message to Whoopi Goldberg, is still ahead. And next, the most outrageous statements of the week with special guest Candace Owens from Turning Point USA. Don't go away. As I said earlier, wow, what a week it was. And there were so many outrageous comments this week, it was almost impossible to choose. But this rant left me speechless. Take a look.
I looked up the definition of treason as soon as people started saying this was treason, and indeed it is. It's just as serious to me as the Cuban Missile Crisis in terms of an attack or the 9/11 attack. The president is taking the side of the people who attacked us instead of trying to prevent a future attack. I would say that his performance today will live in infamy as much as the Pearl Harbor attack or Kristallnacht.
Disgraceful. Turning Point USA Communications Director Candace Owen joins me now with reaction to that and more. All right, so what do you think of this MSNBC contributor and the fact that she thinks that the president committed treason, which, by the way, for anyone who's interested, the punishment is death? Go ahead, Candace.
I don't know what's going on all of these leftist networks or where they're getting their information from. It just seems absolutely ridiculous that they keep doing this. It's almost like they're playing historical bingo. Every single day they drudge up a different historical, horrific event that we lived through and try to apply it to Trump because they want people to be fearful. And ultimately what this does is it cheapens evil. It cheapens what we actually lived through. It cheapens what the Jews lived through when they compare him to Hitler. It cheapens what the men died. Absolutely. What they died fighting for. The soldiers of America died fighting for our freedom. It cheapens all of that when they make these comparisons.
Well, and I couldn't agree with you more. And, you know, it's an attack like 9/11 where 3,000 Americans died. Yeah, but I want to move on. Now, we have another sound on tape, Candace, of Jimmy Kimmel. Take a listen to this.
I would rather we had a chimpanzee as president of the United States. At least with a chimp, there would be somebody to eat the bugs out of Rudy Giuliani's hair.
I didn't even get the last part of it, but go ahead, Candace.
Look, I would rather we had a comedian for a late-night talk show rather than Jimmy Kimmel, who gets up there every single night, cries, brings up his child, uses his child as a prop to get other people to cry. So, look, we don't always get what we want, Jimmy. That's all I can say to him.
Yeah, but what about this? Well, I don't get the chimp and the bugs and Rudy Giuliani's hair. I mean, what? I mean, to comment on that?
He single-handedly ruined late-night TV. I really do believe Jimmy Kimmel does this. He somehow thinks he's like a political spokesperson, tries to be funny. It's never funny. I think that has to be a fake audience. I don't get it whatsoever, but he keeps going on up there, and good for you, Jimmy. Keep it going.
Okay. And finally, the young lady, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, on PBS firing line. Take a listen.
You used the term the occupation of Palestine. What did you mean by that?
I think what I meant is like the settlements that are increasing in some of these areas and places where Palestinians are experiencing difficulty in access to their housing and homes.
Do you think you can expand on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd also just, I am not the expert on geopolitics on this issue.
You know, this woman won she